Okay, we have today. We're going to start Daf Yud Beis and Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. We were learning a machlekes Reb Meir and Rabbi Yehuda about when to stop eating chametz. Reb Meir said you can eat until the 5th hour. Rather, you can eat the whole 5th hour, which means the whole 10 o'clock till 11 o'clock, and then you burn it at 11 o'clock, which is the beginning of the 6th. And Rabbi Yehuda said that you can eat the whole 4th hour, which was 9 to 10. And Thailand, he said you leave it in limbo from 10 to 11, and then you burn it at the beginning of 11. The time of burning was the same. The question is when to stop eating. Amar Rav Simi Barashi. Now we go to Rav Simi Barashi says that we had a similar machlekes regarding witnesses that testify when an event took place. They said Leishanu ela b'shois. That's only that whole machlekes over there. If witnesses testify that this Reuven killed Shimon in the 4th hour or in the 5th hour, and do you say that it's connected, right? Or the 3rd hour, the 5th hour? According to Rabbi Yehuda, we would say, well, people make mistakes for that amount of time over 3 hours, and according to Rabbi Meir, it was only 2 hours. That whole story is only if it's a mistake in hours only. But if one says that Reuven killed Shimon before sunrise, and the other one said after sunrise, then the edus is batel. It's as if they're testifying on 2 separate things, and there's one witness for each occurrence, for each event, and they don't combine to be one edus. It was different hours. The Gemara says pshita. Of course, we said that already, and it's obvious. If they said once before sunrise, no one makes a mistake. One says that it was before sunrise, and one says it was during sunrise. That's already closer. So hanami pshita. That also seems to be obvious because before sunrise is different. You can see if sunrise started. No, could have thought that maybe they're both saying the same thing. Why did he say that it's during Neitzachama if it really was taking place before Neitzachama, before sunrise? Because he was standing in the open field, and over there the sun looks different. There's more light. He sees the rays of the sun. The Zuri Ba'almu Dechaza really was seeing the rays of the sun. He wasn't actually seeing the sun. This is a little complicated scientifically because I believe that you see the ball of the sun before the sun is actually there because of the bending of the light. I think, and it's actually the amount of time for the sun to rise because the light bends. Anyway, whatever the case is, he thought it was sunrise. He thought it was before sunrise. The other guy that was in the darker area thought it was before sunrise.
Were they witnessing a crime? Were they both in the same neighborhood?
Oh, maybe one was outside, one was inside. So Kamash Malan, they have to be able to see each other.
Right.
They have to be able to see each other.
One was in the open field. Where was the other guy?
He was in the house looking from the window. One guy was outside. The other guy was from in the hotel window watching.
The guy on the ground could see it, and the guy in the hotel.
That was in Dallas. Okay, Kamash Malan. Kamash Malan that they don't combine. It's considered different occurrences, different events. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav. Very important. Rav Nachman here says in the name of Rav. Rav Nachman usually quotes Shmuel. Here he says in the name of Rav, Halacha Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Now, Rabbi Yehuda says that you eat chametz the whole 4th hour, 5th hour is in limbo, you wait, you don't do anything, and in the beginning of the 6th hour is when you burn it. Amalei Rava le Rav Nachman. So Rava says to Rav Nachman, V'neima mar halacha Rab Meir. Let the master say the halacha is like Rab Meir, which says you can eat it the whole 5th hour as well. The Sasam Lantana Kavasei, because we have a Stam Mishnah. Stam Mishnah that follows Rab Meir. What's the Stam Mishnah? It's not stood in the Mishnah. Kol Shosh L'Maychel. As long as you're allowed to eat, you're allowed to eat. You're allowed to eat. Feeding animals. feed animals the whole fifth hour, which means from 10 to 11, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., I'm allowed to feed animals. The mayor says if I'm allowed to feed, I'm allowed to eat. I'm allowed to eat, I'm allowed to feed. So, and there's no opinion there. There's no name on that Mishnah. No name on the Mishnah. That means it's a Stam Mishnah, which means coming back to us. This Machlekes Rameir and Rabbi. That means that the Stam Mishnah is in support of Rameir. And there's a rule, Machlekes v'achakach Stam. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but we should paskin like the Stam. Machlekes was earlier, and then the Stam gives us the decision. The Gemara says that he loves Stam. That's not a Stam Mishnah. The Kasha Mutter. If you go to that Gemara in the second parak, you start looking through how does the Gemara learn that Mishnah? The Gemara says that there's a problem with the wording of that Mishnah. The problem is it says Kol Shasha Mutter Lechel Michael. It doesn't have to use the word mutter. It could say Kol Shasha Oichel Michael. The fact that it uses the word mutter is telling me that it's not really telling me that I'm allowed to eat the whole fifth hour. What it's telling me, whenever I have a leniency to eat in the fifth hour, which is the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel that says Truma, you're allowed to eat the fifth hour. So really, it's not the opinion of Rabbi Meir, it's the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel. And that's what the mutter means. Mutter means that there's a heter to eat during the fifth hour. During that heter, which is a heter for Truma, I'm also allowed to feed animals. The Gemara says, okay, the name of Mar Halacha Rabbi Gamliel Davale Machriya. I'm not sure about one thing here. Taisus asked the question. Okay, good. I was expecting the Gemara to say something different. I was expecting the Gemara to say that if you just said that the Stam Mishnah is not Reb Meir, the Stam Mishnah is from Gamliel, so to say the halach is like Rabbi Gamliel because there's a Stam Mishnah. But the Gemara doesn't do that. The Gemara jumps to another reason why the halach should be like Rabbi Gamliel. Say the halach is like Rabbi Gamliel because Rabbi Gamliel is the machriya. Machriya means if I make it's called the Venn diagram. They overlap, right? The two circles overlap. So I have one opinion here. I have Rabbi Yehuda here. Let's say I have Rabbi Meir over here. Rabbi Yehuda would say that the whole fourth hour you're allowed to eat chulin and truma, but the fifth hour not. Rabbi Meir says the whole fifth hour I'm allowed to eat chulin and truma, and I burn it in the sixth. So it comes along Rabbi Gamliel and says, well, the one thing that we can do here is we can say that chulin he accepts Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, and by truma he accepts Rabbi Meir's opinion. So really he's accepting both opinions. He can take like that middle part of the diagram. You can say that Rabbi Gamliel is the machriya. He agrees partially with Rabbi Yehuda that chulin, you're right, has to be in the fourth hour. That's the end. And with truma, he agrees with Rabbi Meir. So he's considered a machriya. Machriya means he's a decider. He's an in-between opinion. So say that Allah is like Rabbi Gamliel because he's an opinion, which Gemara Shabbos told us that Allah is like a machriya because it's really yachid v'rabim. Because regarding chulin, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yehuda argue with Rabbi Meir. Regarding truma, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Meir argue with Rabbi Yehuda. So he's really, in both aspects, he's the majority over the other one.
Is a machriya a mediator or an outside verification?
He becomes another opinion to side in each view with one of the.
So it's an outside verification. In this case, the outsider happens to agree mostly with one person.
Right. So the Gemara says, Amalei, this is Rav Nachman telling Rava, Rav Gamliel av machriyahu, tamda nafshei kamar. Rav Gamliel's not a machriya. Why? Because Rabbi Yehuda never said that the fourth hour I eat chulin and truma. Rabbi Meir never said the fifth hour you can eat chulin and truma. They didn't say anything about chulin and truma. They just said you're allowed to eat. They didn't make that distinction. It was only Rabbi Gamliel that made that distinction. If they would have brought it up and they would have said chulin and truma, and then Rabbi Gamliel says no, only truma but not chulin, so then he would be machriya. But because they didn't even make this distinction at all, so he's not considered a machriya. They didn't have that distinction at all in there. Okay, Viba Yasema, another teretz. Rav Damar Kiaitana. Rav has a support from another source. He said that Rav says that the halacha like Rabbi Yehuda. We're asking maybe you should pass him like Rabbi Meir, maybe you should pass him like Rabbi Gamliel. Now we say Rav has another source. The Tanya was started in a brisa. The source for this is going to take us down half the page. This brisa goes like this. The Tanya was started in a brisa. The 14th of Nisan falls on Shabbos, like this year, right? That means that Erev Pesach is Shabbos. So it gets a little complicated. You do the Bedikas Chametz Thursday night, right? And then before Shabbos, you have to destroy all the Chametz, even though it's only the 13th. The 14th is going to be Shabbos. So Mivare Nesakol Melifnei Shabbos. You have to destroy the Chametz before Shabbos. And V'sarfin Trumais Tmeyas Cheliyas Etahiras. You have to burn the Truma Tmeya. The Truma Tmeya, that means the Truma that became impure. You have to burn that before Shabbos. The Truma Tluya. What is Tluya? It's a suffix if it's Tamei. And you also have to burn the Truma Tahira, because if it's Chametz, you're not going to be able to eat it. However, Meshayrin Min HaTahiras Mazon Shtei Sudas Kadei Lechal Adalit Shayis. Div Rabbi Elazar Bar Yehuda Ish Partis Hashem Mishum Rabbi Shua. However, from the Tahiras, the Truma Tahira, you leave over 2 meals for Shabbos. Emphasis, no Shalashudas on Erev Pesach, Shcholius for Shabbos, because you can't eat any bread after Chatzais. You can't eat Chametz for sure not, because it's the time of the Shechita of the Korban Pesach. You can't have Chametz. You can't eat matzah, because you're not allowed to eat matzah before the time when you're supposed to eat it. So there's no Shalashudas, and that's a support for the Chabad minhag of not washing for Shalashudas. Or and you leave this over 2 meals. When do you eat it? Kedei lechal ad dalid shoyis, until the 4th hour. What does that mean? Ad dalid shoyis, until the 4th hour. It means he's paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. So you're leaving over truma tahira to be able to. It's talking about the house of a kayan, of course. That's allowed to eat truma tahira. Leaving this over until the 4th hour. Amrullah, they said to him, okay, I just want to point out one thing, that Tosfos over here says that you leave over from the Truma Tahira, Kolshkin Chulin you can leave over. Why? Kolshkin Chulin. Because Chulin, I'm leaving it over from Friday afternoon to Shabbos, and I'll finish it on Shabbos. Because Chulin, I can serve it to anyone in the town. I don't need to be so specific. What we're saying is I leave over food from Truma, which has a limited amount of people to eat. So that's what I leave over for Shabbos. Tosfos says for sure Chulin. Others say that actually not. You only leave over Truma if you're a Kayan. You don't leave over Chulin. What we're doing here is specifically to not to destroy Truma. So Amrullah, they said to him, Tahiris la Yisrafu Shemi Yimtzalam Meichlin. Why are you only leaving over 2 meals? How do you know? Maybe some guests are going to come. Leave over more than 2 meals. You'll deal with it tomorrow. But don't burn it right now. Possibly some guests are going to show up and you'll be able to serve it to them. You're not supposed to burn truma. You're not supposed to destroy truma. It's holy food. You're supposed to leave it for as long as possible until at the end you mamish can't, so then you get rid of it. Amar lahan, so Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda Shpartusis, in the name of Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda says to the sages, he says, we're talking about, he looked around Friday afternoon, are there any guests? There were no guests there. And it's not happening. There's no one coming. Maybe they're right outside the wall. It's not, you didn't search everywhere. Maybe they're on their way into town and they're right outside the wall. On Shabbos, still going to come in. So what are we going to eat? And you already burnt your truma and they're kayanim. It's a very good question. He says, according to you, why are we burning the tluyas, the truma? That's a suffix. If it's tamei or tar, that truma you should also leave. Why? Maybe Eliyahu Hanavi is right outside the wall. He's going to come. It's going to tell us Mashiach came, and the Mashiach is coming. And he's going to also tell us, we'll be able to ask him, by the way, the truma that I have in that, is it tahar or is it tameh? Elio and Terele B'Shemayim. How's Elio and Navi going to tell us? The answer is Terele B'Shemayim means that the halachas are not determined by heaven, but facts could be determined. Is it tameh? Is it tahar? Did it touch the sheretz? Did it not touch the sheretz? That's just a fact. Do I say that the halacha is like this one? Do I say the halacha is like that one? That's determining halacha. That Eliyahu Navi doesn't do. That's up to the bestin. But to say, let's say someone has ruach hakodesh, and there's a shaila on a piece of meat. If it's an animal, he knows that it's with his ruach hakodesh. He's allowed to. He knows that it's kosher. Is he allowed to eat it? I saw the shaila in Erech Shai. Erech Shai is from the mountains over there in Mustabak, in Romania. Anyway, he has the shaila, and he says he proves that it's acceptable. He proves, I forget what he proves it from, but he proves that it's acceptable for the person to eat it, for the person himself. Yeah, I don't remember what he said about it. He can say for other people. Yeah, I'm not sure. But it's clearly not an issue of Terele B'Shemayim. So we hear also, why is he burning his tluyos? Let Eliyahu Navi come, and he'll tell us, and we'll be able to eat it. We had the Gemara Erevin. Gemara Erevin said he doesn't come on Erev Shabbos. Doesn't come on Erev Yom Tov. You have two problems here. He's not coming today because it's Erev Shabbos. He's not coming tomorrow because it's tomorrow's Erev Yom Tov. Amru, they said, the halacha was established according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda ish Partusa, that said in the name of Rabbi Yeshua. The only problem here is that what halacha was established according to him. There was a whole conversation here regarding should you let the tahiris stay over because maybe guests are going to come. There was other fine detail there that he said, at what hour do you burn or do you destroy the chametz on Shabbos, or are you allowed to eat the chametz? It's only until the fourth hour. Which detail did they establish? The Gemara says, "My lab afilu lechal." What they established halacha according to him was that you're allowed to eat it until the fourth hour, because that was the detail in this argument. They didn't say anything else. They didn't argue in the fourth hour, fifth hour. They didn't comment on that. No, that's not what they established halacha. They established halacha was that you destroy truma tahira before Shabbos. That was the main discussion there. That's what the halacha was. Okay. Va'af Rebbe Saval Hadar Rav Nachman. In other words, we don't have a real raya that Rav supports. That Rav is supported by a Tana, because that Tana, Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda, wasn't necessarily talking about the exact time. Va'af Rebbe Saval Hadar Rav Nachman Damar Ravin bar Rav Ada. Rebbe also zik Rav Nachman, because Ravin bar Rav Ada told us, said over, Ma'aseh b'demechad, the story of a person. Shehifkid Diskaya Malaya Chametz Etel Yochanan Chakuka. He deposited, Diskaya is a saddlebag. Du sak. A sack is a sack in Aramaic and in English. And du is two. I don't know, I guess Latin. Like a dual, a duet, a duo. So it's a double sack. It's a saddlebag. It goes over on both sides. So this person dropped off, deposited for Yochanan Chakuka. Remember, we had him earlier. He was the one that discussed how the grain was doing. Remember, he didn't want to say that the grain was bad. So he said the barley is good. He said, well, what are we, animals? He should have said last year's wheat was good. So anyway, this person, Yochanan Chakuka, is a watchman for a sack of 2 sacks of grain, of chametz. And the mice made holes in it. And the chametz is oozing out being squeezed out, which means it's getting lost. Now, you have a little bit of an issue here, because if you're a watchman for items that are losing their value, then you're really allowed to go and sell it. Now, the only problem is that you're not supposed to sell it when it's cheap. The problem is right here, it's Erev Pesach. You're selling it now, you're selling it at the lowest price. So we want to postpone. It's not going to get any better. So I don't know why you have to postpone it. But we're postponing the sale because it's so cheap. So Ubalafnei Rebbe, he comes in front of Rebbe and he asks Rebbe, what should I do? Shari Shaina Amrulai Hampton. It was the first hour of the day. He said, don't sell it yet. Still time. Maybe he'll eat it. It has more value to eat than to sell. That's it. Shni Amrulai, maybe the guy's going to come, I guess, need it. Shni Amrulai Hampton. The second hour he said, wait. Shlishas Amrulai Hampton. The third hour he said, wait. Revius Amrulai Hampton. Fourth hour he said, wait. Chamishas Amrulai, he says, Tzei Meicher B'Shuk. Let's go and sell it. Which hour is this? The fifth hour. Fifth hour, we're talking about 10 o'clock, in between 10 and 11, right? 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 and 11. If we start at 6. So, in between 10 and 11. My love, Lenachrim, Kirab Yehuda. Unbelievable. Who's he selling it to? Selling it to Goyim. He's following the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that holds that you're not allowed to eat at 10 o'clock, but you're still allowed to have hana. You're still allowed to have hana. You can have benefit, you can feed to your animals, you can sell it to a non-Jew. So the whole 10 o'clock hour, you can still have hana. So, but you can't eat it. So you see, Rebbe holds like Reb Nachman, a paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. Rebbe doesn't have to hold like Reb Nachman. Rebbe could hold like Rabbi Yehuda. Rebbe, his name was Rabbi Yehuda, but he's not Rabbi Yehuda that when we talk about who's arguing with Reb Meir. He's Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Rabbi Yehuda that argues with Reb Meir is Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi. They were both students of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yosef says, Leili Yisrael Reb Meir. It's no proof. It's no proof at all. Rabbi Yosef says, he's following Reb Meir. He's selling it to Jews. It's the fifth hour. They want the last chance to eat a bagel right before the last time, the pizza, whatever it is. They're about to have chametz, about to have restriction on chametz. They want the last moment. Yeah, I'm sure in these fancy hotels that they have these Pesach things. They have the last chametz, must be unbelievable. So, okay. Amalei Abaya, Ili Yisrael, Nashklein Nafshay. I don't get it. Why is he telling him to go to the marketplace? Let him eat it. Why does he have to sell it? Let him eat it, and he'll provide the person with the money for the value, whatever the value is. He doesn't have to sell it. Let him eat it himself. The Gemara answers, Mishum Chashada. You're not supposed to do that. If you're in charge of someone's items, you're not supposed to do private business with it, even if the person needs to sell it. Yeah, it's a conflict of interest. The Tanya started in the Brisa, Gabay Tzedakah, Shein Lamaniyam Lachalek, Partin Lachim, Reim Partin Latzman. They used to have small coins that were copper, and copper would oxidize. What's it called when it turns green? Oxidize, and it would start to eat away at it. I don't know if it really eats away, but anyway, they would switch it for silver, for other coins. So those smaller coins, either maybe it was more convenient or because of the oxidation. So
it's funny. The United States used to have silver coins, and then they cheapened it by filling with copper.
Do our pennies still oxidize? I only see the old ones do.
Silver does.
Our quarters are all copper nails.
Oh yeah.
Well, whatever they used to be silver when I was.
So he's the Gabay Tzedakah doesn't have aniyim there. It's a good day in the city. There's no everyone has whatever they need. He doesn't have the aniyim coming around. So instead of giving out the money, he's going to exchange the money. He shouldn't exchange it with money in his own wallet to switch it with that. He should go to a bank or whatever to someone else to exchange it. He shouldn't be providing business with them. Oh, maybe there's a little fee that goes along and whatever. And so he's a gabbai tzedakah. He has a responsibility to make sure that there's no issues. Gabbai tamchoy shein lamaniyam lachalik meichan lachem vein meichan latzman. Let's say he has a soup kitchen. He should sell it to others if there's no aniyim there. He shouldn't sell the food to himself. He should be clean. Should be clean. Yeah. It's complicated today if you have anything to do with the kitchens. There's so much waste. Unbelievable amount of waste. It's wild. Like no house is comparable to what goes on in commercial places. So, okay. Amalei Rav Ada bar Masna Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef was the one that said that you're selling it to a Yisrael, and therefore we're paskening like Reb Meir that says you have an extra hour. According to Rebbe told him go sell it in the 5th hour. He's selling it to a Yisrael. So Rav, who is this? Rav Ada bar Masna tells Rav Yosef, if we get into the history of Rav Yosef, that Rav Yosef got all his learning, and what he said over here was a suggestion that it's probably selling to a Yisrael. But Rav Ada bar Masna says, I remember what you taught us before you forgot your learning. You told us clearly that what Rebbe meant was that you sell it to a non-Jew, and he's passing like Rabbi Yehuda that you're not allowed to sell it to a Jew then because a Jew can't eat it then. Well, not that you can't sell it, but a Jew can't eat it then. Okay. Amar Rav Yosef, Kamanas lahashmaita the Rebbe. Yosef says, who does it go? This opinion of Rebbe that we just said, that he waits and then he sells it. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel follows his father. Rebbe is following his father's opinion. The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah, someone deposits fruits by his friend to watch. So can you watch my fruit stand while I go check something out? So, and then they're starting to rot. So there is a certain decay.
How long are you going for?
I don't know, a day or something. There is a certain amount of decay that's normal. That's but if it's anything more than that, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says that you sell it in the bezdin because you have to provide, you have to make sure that his produce isn't lost. Just like if he would have lost it, you would have to return it to him. Here he's losing it. You have to return it. How do you return it to him? Sell it quickly. There can't be a fruit stand here because then he wanted you to sell it. Here we're talking about that he gives it to you to watch. Just watch it. Don't do anything with it. And it turns out it's getting lost. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says sell it. The Tanna Kama says don't sell it. But Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says you have to sell it to save it. So Rebbe that's saying sell it on the 5th hour to salvage whatever you can get for the owner, that he's following his father's opinion. Amalei Abaya says, well, but on that Mishnah, Rabba Bar Bachana says in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, doesn't have to be the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Everyone would hold that. If it's anything more than the regular loss, then everyone holds that you're allowed to sell it. The question is, so what was the machlekes? Machlekes was when it wasn't getting lost. So why does Reb Shimon ben Gamliel say to sell it? Why does Reb Shimon ben Gamliel just automatically sell it? It's only at its regular rate of decay. Why should you sell it? There's nothing different over here. He gave it to you, just hold on to it. Why does it? So the Tanna Kama says don't do anything. No bad occurrence is happening. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says no, it's decaying. But it always does that. It's not nothing worse than the regular. So Tosfos asks the question. Tosfos says that it is decaying more for the month, but not for the year. We're not talking about fruits over here. We must be talking about grains, calling grains pairs. And for the month, it's going a little faster, but for the year, how much is lost in a larger? It's still not at that rate. So because in the depends. This is how the all the complications with with global warming. It depends when you look at it. If you look from here to here, if you look from here to here, all the numbers change. It depends on what you want to look at. So he's looking at it in the month. Oh, it's getting too much. The Chacham are saying no, it's not. In the year, it's still perfectly fine. So you don't sell it yet. Yeah.
And this may sound off topic, but it sounds to me like the origin of the stock market saying bulls make money, bears make money, the chazerim get slaughtered. Meaning, if something's going up in value and you sell it, you make money. If something's starting to go down in value and you sell it quickly, you still can make money. Otherwise, you work. But the chazerim, if it's going up, you say, "I'm going to hold it," because it might just crash on you, or it's going. Then you lose. So I think maybe this is the source.
Dr. Stein has exceeded his comment limit for today.
My counselor.
Okay. V'oid am Rabbi Yehuda shtei chalas kula. Rabbi Yehuda also said in the Mishnah that there were 2 loaves that were put on the roof of the Yitztaba. There were 2 gersais here. We said al gav or al gag. We're going to see in our Gemara now. When they're both there, you're allowed to eat. When one of them is removed, it stays in limbo. You're not allowed to eat chametz, but you're allowed to have enough from chametz. And then when they're both removed, it's time to burn. It was just a siman, like a big clock, a big ben, whatever. It's a big clock that tells everyone what's going on, like a red light, yellow light, green light. So Tani Tana Kamed Rav Yehuda al Gav Itztaba. A Tana taught in front of Rav Yehuda that it says not on the roof, it's just al Gav, on top of the Itztaba. There must have been a bench there, and al Gag would have meant on top of the Itztaba. On top of there's some sort of colonnade, like columns with the roof on top that people could go under for shade, but it was really open. And there were also benches there. So al gavitz meant on top of the platform, but an al gagitz meant on the roof on top of the platform. So he says, is he hiding them? Tani al gagitz, but it's on the roof of it, not on the top of the bench. Amar Rachva, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Harabayas stav kafel haya. On the Harabayas was this double colonnade. Tanya nami hachi. Harabayas stav kafel haya. We even have this in a brisa. Amar Rachva, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Imer stavanas nikras. Rabbi Yehuda says it was called a hall. Stav lifnimi stav. It had a double set of columns, an outer column and an inside column. Okay. Psulais. What was on top of the itztaba of this colonnade? What was on top of it that people were looking at to see if they could still eat their chametz or if they had to burn their chametz? So we said it was 2 loaves of bread from the carbon taida. That's what we said. 2 loaves of bread. Now the carbon taida was 40 loaves of bread, and it also came along with the sacrifice. It was brought if a miracle happened to someone or he survived something. Chavash Yam Yisur Midbar. He was in prison or went over the sea or over the desert, or he was sick. So he brings a carbon taida. It's a type of shlamim, except the time period for eating it is instead of 2 days and a night, it's only 1 day and a night. So it's very limited. And on Erev Pesach, you can't bring a carbon taida, as we're going to see. So what would happen here is that they had a carbon taida from yesterday that they put up, and in the morning it becomes puzzle. So we said that it was a carbon taida that was the loaves were puzzled because it was over the time ibr geblibena, right? It's nicer from yesterday's carbon, and by morning it already has to be burnt, and we're leaving it there longer to use it as a sign for the time when you're allowed to eat chametz. Amar Rab Chanina, because everyone came to the base of Mikdash to be Oile Regel, So they brought their carbon taidas with them. Anyone that had to bring a carbon taida, they would bring it with them. Now they couldn't bring it on the 14th, so they brought it on the 13th. There's a tremendous amount of carbon taidas being brought on the 13th. They can't finish it all. There's waste. So because there's so many, so that's what we're going to do with this. The Tanya was taught in a brayso and maybe in taida b'chag hamatzos. You can't bring it on Pesach because there's chametz. There's 40 loaves. 10 of them are chametz. The Gemara says, Pshita, Amarvada Baravach, Biadalas, can Xavarin, maybe in Kachim, Lesipsol. Of course, you can't bring it on Pesach. The word over here, the idea is not that you can't bring it on Pesach. What he meant to say is you can't bring it on Erev Pesach. Why? Because you'll only have 6 hours to eat it, or less, right? Because because you bring it in the morning, and then by 1 o'clock, it's also midaraisa, by 12 o'clock, it has to be burned. By 11 o'clock, it has to be burned. That's what we're doing. We're burning it by 11. So you can't. The idea here is you can't bring it on Erev Pesach. It's so interesting because the Braisa's expression was b'chag hamatzos. If you divide Chag hamatzos and Chag Pesach, that Chag Pesach is really Erev Pesach because Chag Pesach is the day that the sacrifice is brought. Chag hamatzos is when you eat matzos. So then the Gemara is a question, of course not. And the Gemara answers, no, we're talking about Yudalid, and we're saying that you don't bring it on Yudalid either, on Erev Pesach. Everyone holds you can bring it on the 13th. Because there's so many, not V'kuli Alma, everyone holds. Everyone does. Kuli Alma, everyone does. Everyone brings it on the 13th. There's so many people there, so it's going to be Pasal Belina. Bishum Rabbi Yana Yamru, Lina means it's left overnight. Name of Rabbi Yana, they said, Ksheira Sayu. No. The carbon pesach was eaten. It was brought on the 14th. They roasted it on the 14th, and it was ready to be eaten on the 15th by night. 14th in the afternoon.
Wasn't it gone by midnight?
By midnight of the 15th.
Right, so they shechted it and roasted it during the 14th, and they ate it on the 15th,
Right.
and they had to be finished before midnight.
Right. So, and they had it in groups, so there wasn't as much. It wasn't like each person brought his. How do you eat a cow? It wasn't a cow. It was a small. It was the small calves. It was within the first year.
Probably weighs 30 pounds, 40 pounds.
Right. That was the big deal with the the big deal with breaking the bones, because the bones in a very small calf are so soft. So there was a chiddush that you don't break the bones. Eat it like a rich man. Don't even though you're able to break the bones. And Rabbi Yanai says not that it was possible. Rabbi Yanai says that those loaves were actually kosher. Ksheir sayu. But my karla psulas. Why are you saying that they're puzzle? Those two loaves that are on top of the what's it called? The awning. It's like an awning up there. That those two loaves are actually acceptable loaves. They're not puzzle. It's not that the carbon was brought yesterday. The carbon wasn't brought at all. And you see, there's two stages of holiness that go on to a carbon. Or what happens is a person can say, this is going to be a sacrifice. Or this is part of this loaf will be part of my sacrifice. But then, so it's called Kedushas Damim. It becomes holy. It becomes Kaddish. So, but I can still redeem it. I can say that, if it gets lost or something, I bring another one. Or I can redeem it. But once if it gets a mum, I could redeem it. Once the sacrifice is slaughtered, then it can't be redeemed. That's already a new level of holiness. Here we're talking about that it was sanctified, but the sacrifice wasn't brought. So what? So I'll bring it after the sacrifice could be brought anytime. It's not puzzle. It's just, well, it's going to become chametz, this bread, and it's going to be usher because it's Erev Pesach. Gemara says v'nishchit. So why don't you just slaughter the sacrifice? Shavar zevach. We're talking about that we lost the sacrifice. So what? Bring another animal. You have the loaves over here. They were sanctified. Bring another animal. The Gemara answers this. No, he said specifically, this is my animal and this is my bread. the Rabba, Dama Rabba, Avad Alechem, maybe Lechem Acher. Of the Taidain, maybe Taida Acheres. If you lose the bread, you bring other bread. But if you lose the sacrifice, you don't bring another sacrifice. My time Alechem Glal Taida, Vein Taida Glal Lechem. The bread is brought along with the animal, not the animal brought along with the bread. So you don't replace the sacrifice because of the bread. You're allowed to redeem it. Why don't you just make it chulin? And then why do you have to make it go to waste like this? We're talking about that the sacrifice was slaughtered, but the blood wasn't sprinkled. So it only becomes mutter when the blood is sprinkled. So the two stages, there's actually three stages. First, you sanctify it. Then you slaughter the sacrifice. Then it becomes, at that point, it's the second stage of holiness. In order to get it out of that, to be allowed to eat it, then I need to sprinkle the blood. So, b'nish b'chadam, the blood was spilled. So now it really has no hope. So, come on, it's not that it's puzzle, it's just it has no mater. It was never became permissible. Who does this go? Like Kerebi. The two things that are mater, they go up one without the other. It says like this. This is going different than Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon, as we're about to see. The Tanya was taught in the Brisa, Kivsi Atzeres. There are lambs that are brought on Shavuos that come together with 2 loaves of bread. The 2 loaves of bread of Shtei Alechem on Shavuos are brought together with these lambs. Ein mekachem es alechem ela b'shchita. The bread becomes sanctified when the lambs are slaughtered. Keitzad, how does this work? Shachtan l'shman v'zark dam l'shman. They're slaughtered properly. The blood is sprinkled properly with the right intentions. Kiddush alechem. The bread is sanctified. Shachtu shlei l'shman v'zark dam shlei l'shman. Let's say it was slaughtered properly with the right intentions, but the blood wasn't sprinkled with the right intentions. Like Kiddush alechem, it doesn't work. Shachtan l'shman v'zark dam shlei l'shman. Let's say you slaughtered it properly. No, the first one was, the one before this was you didn't slaughter it properly and you didn't sprinkle the blood properly. Then it's like Kiddush alechem. Let's say you slaughtered it properly, but you didn't sprinkle the blood properly. Lechem kaddish ve'ena kaddish divrei Rebbe. Rebbe says it's holy and it's not holy. That means it's in that middle stage where you're not able to eat it yet. Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon holds you have to do both. It's nothing happened. Okay, so what are we saying over here? We're saying that because the blood spilled and it's now in a stage of it's holy, it can't be redeemed, and I also can't eat it. So that's why this bread is being used, because it's in that middle stage where it's in the worst possible scenario. It's already been sanctified enough, but it doesn't have the mater to allow it to be eaten. So this would only fit according to Rebbe that holds that the shechita itself brings it into that stage, and then the blood would make it permissible to be eaten. However, according to Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon, he says that nothing happens until the blood is sprinkled. It's not even holy. According to him, you should be allowed to redeem it. The Gemara answers, "Afil temer Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon hachamay eskin eskabel adam b'kais v'nishbach." Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon said that once the blood was sprinkled incorrectly, but if the blood was caught in a cup and it's ready to be sprinkled, but it wasn't sprinkled yet, then it would be acceptable. Why? Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon, he holds like his father. Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon's father is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai has the famous opinion, anything that has potential to be sprinkled, it's as if we view the potential, we view it as if it was, as long as it was in the potential state. So to over here, if it had potential to be sprinkled, we're going to say that it's already in the stage, even though you need both the shechita and the zrika, according to him, to make it holy, but I have both. I have one in practical and I have one in potential, and that's good enough. And that's why that would fit with Rabbi Yanai. It says that we're dealing with sacrifices with breads that are kosher, and they're still considered pasul and they can't be redeemed. Now we say, Tana was taught in a brisa, taught in a Tosefta probably. Mishum Rabbi Elazar Amru, it was taught in the name of Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar it's a Tosefta, would be Rabbi Elazar ben Shemua, another student of Rabbi Akiva, not Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas that we always have in the Gemara. It's Rabbi Elazar ben Shemua. He says, Ksher Sayu. Not like we have in our Mishnah that the bread that was put on the Itzvah was puzzle. Rabbi Yehuda said that. Rabbi Yanai also said that it was puzzle, but it was really kosher, but it's called puzzle for a reason. Really, it was kosher. While they were there, they would eat. One of them was removed. It's in limbo. They don't eat, they don't burn. That's what the Brisa says. Okay, different than the way we've been learning until here, because it's different than our Mishnah. Tanya Abishal Aimer, starting in the Brisa, Abishal says, "Stay pari sayacharshis para mishcha." Abishal tells us that they used some other system, or maybe they used both systems. On Hara Mishcha, which means Hara Zaysim, they would have 2 cows over there that were plowing. As long as they're plowing, everyone would be eating. If they removed 1 cow from plowing, then Thailand, then they wouldn't eat, but they wouldn't burn. When they were both removed, everyone would start to burn. Taisus over here says that it has to be talking about that the minhag was to do malacha on Erev Pesach, because we are going to have a Gemara later. Do you do malacha? Are you allowed to do work on Erev Pesach? So plowing a field is considered work. Other possibility is that it really wasn't actually plowing. It was just like make believe plowing, just so everyone should be able to see it because it's on top of the mountain. Okay, let's leave it here. We'll learn on Sunday at 6 o'clock.